can come forward. He doesn't need to speak at all, but he can address the issue in detail. And so when we do that, then what we do is we then open it up to public discussion so that the people, by the way, prior to that, we have a lot of letters that came in. Unfortunately, the letters come in late. The matter of fact, the petition was received by me probably 2 hours ago. So the board has not had time to review the data. So we're going to have to wade through all of that, because if you took the time to write a letter, then we should read that letter into the records. We might ask, since there's so many, we'll ponder the thought of having Al say who the letter came from, what's the sense of the letter, and instead of reading every word, because we'll be here a long time getting through all of the letters that come in. So if you bear with me and agree with that, if someone has some real objections to it, then we'll go back and read them letter completely one end to the other. So that's how we're going to proceed. And then if Hans comes in here, we're ready to go. And I'm sorry that we have to stand up. And maybe we can sit for 15 minutes and give the seat up to somebody else so they can rest their poor weary legs. And thank you for your patience. Matter of fact, I wonder if we can start reading the petition, because he does have the petition.
He has a petition, we can.
So I think that we'll do that. I think we will start it off by having Al read the petition, because Hans already has it, and if he comes in a few minutes later, it's no catch-up because he's already read that. So Al, would you please?
Okay. This is an application for a special permit, Chapter 40.
Oh, wait a minute. We got to make sure we go online.
Yeah, we're online.
Are we online? Okay, go ahead.
Okay. This is an application for a special permit, Chapter 40A, Section 9, Zoning Board of Appeals. Name and address of each applicant or petitioner: Gary Archer, 70 Main Street, Air, Mass. 01432. The undersigned hereby makes application as follows: for a special permit for the construction and use of the site for a 5-island gasoline service station, convenience store, and a drive-through window.
Is your microphone working?
It should be, yes.
Can you hear her?
Can hear?
There's a couple of people who can't.
I'll try a little louder.
Get closer. It's better.
Okay.
Sounds okay on this side.
Okay, thank you. Has the proposed action or use begun? No. The basis for this application for special permit is found in the following section of the Lunenburg zoning bylaw: 4.6.3.1D, 4.5.3.1A, drive-through, and 6.5.1.4A for signs. Street address or other sufficient description?
I'd like to add to that. There is an omission and should be added to it for the car wash, which is 4.6.3.10. And that will take care of that. Go ahead.
Okay. Street address or other sufficient description to adequately identify the land or building which is the subject of this case is 790 Mass Ave, Assessors Map and Parcel 59-08. Name and address of each holder of legal title to the land which is the subject of this case, listed as it appears in the deed, is Marsha Luna as administratrix of the estate of Edward H. Riley, Jr. Deed recorded, Worcester Northern District Registry of Deeds, Book 627, page 139. Date recorded, March 19th, 1947. If the undersigned has any knowledge or prior appeal, application, or petition concerning the land or building involved in this case, describe the case and the dates involved. We have no knowledge of a prior appeal, application, petition concerning the land or building involved in this case. There are special permit questions, and I will read the question in their response. A, will not be injurious or dangerous to the public health or unduly hazardous because of traffic congestion, danger of fire or explosion, or other reasons. The answer, the use of the site as a full-service gas station and convenience store will not be unduly injurious to or dangerous to the public health or hazardous or otherwise cause any traffic congestion. The applicant and future owner presently operates two mobile stations, one in Air, Mass. And the other in Littleton, Mass., and has done so for the past 18 years. Archer's Mobile is a second-generation business that was established in 1966. He has always maintained them in a safe and clean manner. The storage tanks for the site are compliant with EPA and Mass DEP standards. The entire construction of the site is in accordance with applicable design standards and designed by MHF Design Consultants and Engineers, an engineering firm specializing in the construction of gas stations. MHF has been involved in the design and construction of other gas stations in Lunenburg and the surrounding areas. The applicant has submitted, in conjunction with this request for a special permit, a traffic study and an application with the Conservation Commission to address the impact to the area. Question B, will not have a material adverse effect on the value of land and buildings in the neighborhood or the amenities of the neighborhood. B, a well-run convenience store and gas station will positively affect the neighboring area with a look and fit that will complement the community. The applicant intends to have a drive-through for a coffee shop as well as a sandwich offering. The applicant does not wish to restrict his hours of operation and would like to point out that the proposed site is isolated from surrounding neighbors by non-buildable land and/or roadways on all sides. Therefore, any potential negative effect of noise in sight are diminished over the area, and the potential for vegetation buffer trees exist. C, will be operated with reasonable regard for order and sightliness if in open use. As stated above, the applicant operates two other facilities in a clean and safe manner, is routinely on site in these locations. D, will not produce noise, vibration, smoke, dust, odor, heat, or glare observable at the lot lines in amounts clearly detrimental to the normal use of the adjacent property. His answer is C, letter B above. The applicant is open to other suggestions of the town boards and the property's abutters. This is signed on the 7th day of August, 2014 by Gary W. Archer. There is also a letter on the sale of 790-792 Mass Ave from the estate of Edward H. Riley to Gary W. Archer, to whom it may concern. In reference to the above matter, I, Marsha K. Luma, personal representative for the estate of Edward H. Riley, hereby grant authorization to Gary W. Archer or his representative to file for the necessary permits and applications to consummate this transfer. There's also a list of abutters, a picture of the sign that they are proposing, and also some preliminary site plans.
Okay, thank you. Now, we got some other letters that have come in. One would be from the planning board.
Yeah, we do.
The other is from the building inspector.
Okay. I'll read the building department to Don Bowen, Chairman, Lunenburg Planning Zoning Board of Appeals. Dear Don, please be advised that I reviewed the site plan and signage for the special permit request for the service station and car wash at 790 Mass Ave and have determined that a special permit is required under the Lunenburg Protective Bylaw under Section 4.6.3.1D for the service station and under Section 4.6.3.10 for the car wash. The signage is over the allowable size to obtain a permit by right, and therefore a dimensional variation will be required to install the sign. If you have any questions in regard to this correspondence, feel free to contact me, Michael Savageau. There's also a letter from the planning board. Dear Mr. Bowen, the Planning Board at its meeting of September 8, 2014, took a vote to respectfully request that if the Zoning Board of Appeals grants a special permit for the construction and use of the site for a gasoline station and convenience store as part of the Zoning Board of Appeals approval, the applicant adhere to the following. 1. Protected bylaw of the Town of Lunenburg, Section 4.6, Commercial District Uses, subsection 4.6.5, Design Standards, and 2. Planning Board Development Plan Review. The Planning Board also requests that the applicant work with the Historical Commission to determine the status of the property. Sincerely, Joseph L. Bellotta, Seymour, Chair, Lunenburg Planning Board.
The next one should be the
Petition?
petition.
Okay.
The petition, by the way, was received by me a couple of hours ago. These types of petitions and these applications that come in should come in much sooner so that all of the members of the board can ingest and think about what the petitioner wants us to think about. Since it's none of the members have had an opportunity to read it, it'll be read and now for everybody. And when that's done, I'm going to ask by hopefully unanimous consent that we don't read everybody else's letter, though we normally do and should, so that if a person had written and said that I am in opposition to it and then goes into a dissertation of the reasons why, that should be fully read. But and I'm going to leave it, I think, okay to do that, is that once we read the master petition, which covers quite a bit of what everybody else had thought, it would seem to me, then we can just acknowledge the letter to the for or against, and then move on. Otherwise, we'll be here reading a lot of times, but it's up to you folks if you would, by some majority vote, say, and I might ask that right now, would you like the board to do it that way? Acknowledge the letter, since it's in opposition, and don't necessarily read the detail of the letter. And go ahead.
May I suggest that, I haven't read this yet, but I'll read it now, but this may contain most of what they want to hear.
Well, that was my
So
front.
if they hear it first, maybe they'll...
Well,
I'll have
okay,
a chance
let's
to
read the
what
petition
it
first,
says.
and then I'll ask for a consent to, we will certainly read and put into the record all of the letters in detail, but it's up to you. If you folks want to sit and listen to everybody's, which you have every right to do, we will do that. Go ahead now.
Okay, this is a petition to the Lunenburg Zoning Board of Appeals. The petition is pursuant to the Town of Lunenburg Zoning Board of Appeals notice of public hearing regarding the petition of Gary Archer for the construction and use of the property located at 790 Mass Ave, Lunenburg, Mass. 01462, for a gasoline service station and convenience store with a drive-through window, as well as a car wash, which is on the site plan but is not mentioned in the notice of public hearing. We, the undersigned, are abutters to this property, and we wish to register our strong objection to the proposed construction and use of this site. It is our considered opinion that the site does not meet the standards for granting a special permit, and that it will, in fact, cause substantial detriment to the public good. This site is not an appropriate location for such a project because it is not compatible with the existing neighborhood with regard to size, location, and architecture. We are concerned that it will have a negative effect on our property values by substantially changing the present nature of the surrounding neighborhood. Furthermore, this use of that site will create a nuisance or a serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians. At that location, the only sidewalk is on the same side of the roadway, so hold on one second. So pedestrians would be required to walk across entrance and exit traffic at that site. Additionally, there is sightline issue with respect to the close proximity of Riley Road to the proposed entrance and exits because of the curve to the west of Riley Road along Mass Ave. Also, even if severe restrictions are imposed, we feel that the proposed use at that site would be intrusive. There will be excessive noise and light, especially at night when most residents are home. The size and height, location, and lighting of the proposed signage will be conspicuous and visually offensive to the abutting homeowners. We, the undersigned abutters to the above-listed property, urge the Lunenburg Zoning Board of Appeals to not grant a special permit for construction and use of the site at 790 Mass Ave, Lunenburg, Mass. 01462, and I would guess that there are at least 75 to 80 signatures on this petition.
I'd like to add, thank you. I'd like to add one other thing. If you generally by unanimous consent agree that we will note all of them, when we open it to public discussion, those who have written letters can certainly come up and speak their piece, so we'll give everybody their full, strong voice. So I'm asking you now, by unanimous consent, if possible, that we will proceed in the manner that I just spoke to. Can I hear from the crowd?
Aye.
Okay, and those in opposition? I hear none. Al, would you proceed on the basis that we've agreed to? Thank you.
Okay, what do you want me to do?
Just
Summarize.
whoever wrote, who wrote the letter,
Okay.
summarize their opposition if you, as quick as best you can.
Okay, Louise Boyle is in opposition to the request for a special permit because of the entrance to the 55-plus community, which is in close proximity to the proposed project, and the existing daycare center, which is also just heading west, is a difficult stretch on Mass Ave. And she's also concerned about lighting issues and the neighborhood, the church, the funeral home on the north side of Mass Ave, and she just doesn't feel that this is the best area for a project of this size and scope. The neighborhood is residential, and it is not appropriate for that. It doesn't have the character for that section of town.
That'll do it.
And if I miss anything, you can speak up. And this is from Wendy Blatt, no relation. And she also is in objection to the Archer Gas Station complex being proposed for the subjective property. She's concerned about the traffic, exhaust, noise. The neon is definitely not in keeping with the existing residential neighborhood makeup, even though it's spot zoned commercial. It's primary residential, and she objects to that as well. There is already one large gas station complex a half-mile west, and she feels it's an eyesore, and she also is citing safety concerns. George and Louis Donahue. I wish to express my concern for the proposed construction of the extensive commercial service station in our area. We have lived here in our lovely town village for 2 years. We also know the area because our son and his family have resided here for 25-plus years. We love the quaint village and the convenience store near the town hall. And let's just read it quick. And she's basically just saying the same: do not authorize the proposed commercial development. And this one, this is Mary Ann, I think it's Iannacci. Forgive me if I mispronounce. Opposition to petition of G.W. Archer, Inc., requesting a special permit. And as a unit owner at Stone Farm Estates in 2008, it is with great dismay and apprehension that I address the above entitled matter. Relocating from Malden, Mass., my mother and I decided on the quaint town of Lunenburg in order to be closer to my son and family. The location at Stone Farm Estates was most appealing to us, the peaceful, picturesque area bringing much pleasure to my 90-year-old mother and myself. Since changes have occurred, however, the pro-subject project will be the most, as far the negative implications upon the Stone Farm Estate homeowners are numerous. Safety issues, it's difficult to navigate the Stone Farm Estate's entrance and exit, and it's a threat to the quiet, peace, and enjoyment, and visionary changes will drastically impact the beautiful landscape of the town, and certainly would be a travesty that this distinction to the town of Lunenburg. And she would urge us to vote against it. And this is Donald Gurney. Let's see where I think is here because he's asking for permission to speak. I am writing to urge my fellow Lunenburg residents and taxpayers to attend the meeting and public hearing by the Lunenburg Board of Appeals, Town Hall, Wednesday. Zoning Board of Appeals will hear the petition of Gary Archer of Air for the special permit. And let's see what he's saying. And a lot of it is the same. He's concerned the residential area at the former site of the Riley Package Store, 4/10 of a mile west of town center, across from St. Boniface Catholic Church, Sawyer Miller Mazzarelli Funeral Home, and close proximity to the Bonjour Daycare Center. The special permit will also authorize Mr. Archer to install a large and non-conforming sign on the site. And he is apparently here. He says he does plan to attend, so he will probably speak to the issues. And this one is Thomas McDermott. We are the McDermotts, and we reside within the Stone Farm Estate at 12 Ryder Road. We would like to take this opportunity to voice our opposition to the gas station convenience store. We strongly echo the concerns of many of our neighbors to the negative impact that this project would have on our community as well as other abutting properties. Our major concerns center around a negative impact to real estate values, safety concerns for traffic arriving and leaving this project, quality of life impact from evening lighting and excessive traffic, and whether or not this is an appropriate project for this property given the location and current zoning restrictions. And again, he points out some of the same close proximity of some of the other gas stations, churches, etc. And this is Margaret. I can't read that. You can read that name.
No, I got you.
I apologize. I think it's Margaret Asuzi. And 54 Riley Road. I strongly object to the Archer project. Totally inappropriate, opposite a Catholic church and a funeral home. And that pretty much summarizes the letters.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank the audience for letting us cut the time down. With that, I think it's now the appropriate time for the applicant to present his case, if you will. You must come up at the microphone. Since we're on TV, anybody who wants to say anything needs to be reminded that they have to come forward and then speak to the microphone because we're on live TV. Go ahead.
Thank you, members of the board. My name is Robert Cirillo. I represent Gary Archer in his application for a special permit. What the board has before it was a request for a special permit, as you stated, for the use of the site as a gas station with a drive-through window, potential car wash, and thank you for amending my petition to that effect, and use of additional signage over and above what is allowed. By way of history on this site, as the board may know, and some of the members in town that are present before you, The site was the site of the Stone Farm package store. It had been a liquor store since 1947. At some point in the 80s, it also became a redemption center. It is commercially zoned. There seemed to have been some question about that, but it is a commercially zoned site. In applying the Lunenburg bylaws, and I read from the bylaws specifically, the purpose of the zoning bylaws in part for commercially zoned property, as set out in the bylaw, is to provide for automobile-oriented sales and services. And that's quoting directly from the Lunenburg bylaws in the commercial section. As a matter of right, the limitations on a commercial zone property, there is a height limitation of, I believe it's 55 feet, and a use limitation for all of the uses allowed in a retail commercial site, which include a retail service store or service establishment, professional offices, restaurants, and a parking garage to service these other uses. So as a matter of right, in this zone, the applicant could, in theory, his limitations are the limitations of a height limitation of 55 feet, which is extremely much greater, significantly greater than what is being proposed, and essentially a store in the same nature as what is being proposed, as the convenience store. So what he's building, the building itself would not require the application for a special permit. It's only the use as the gas station and the other accessory uses, the drive-through, that would require a special permit from this board. My point being is that if Mr. Archer was applying for a building permit to build the exact same building and was only using it as a convenience store, it would not be the subject of an appeal because this is in a commercial zone. At least that's my interpretation of the Lunenburg bylaw on a commercial zone.
Might I interject to make sure we're all on the same page?
Yes, sir.
You are bringing that down to the section 4631 as use permissible by this board, and that would include the subject matter that's here in front of us, which is gasoline service stations. So
Yes.
therefore, as a matter, if it's done that way, we're saying that the use, and that's what this board is looking at, is the use permissible under the Lunenburg zoning bylaws. And that's the point that you are driving to, am I right?
Yes, my point is that other than the use as a gas station, the use as a convenience store would be allowable as a matter of right, is my interpretation of this bylaw. It's the request to use this site as an accessory use, as a gas station, to sell gasoline, and that falls under the section that you cited, section 4.6.3.1, which requires this applicant to come before this board.
Right.
I don't dispute he has to come before the board to use this area as a gas station, if the board allows it. My point was that a building could be built there, a convenience store could be built there, and as I'll conclude with, the use will not be substantially different. The impact on the area would not be substantially different as a convenience store than it would be as a convenience store and a gas station. But I'm going to address that a little bit further down. This site has been, well, in addition, one other allowance under the zoning is that under a commercially zoned area, up to 75% of the area may be paved. And so these are the things that would be allowable without a special permit. With a special permit on this site, additional uses could be a shopping center, a gasoline station, a motel or hotel, and I acknowledge this particular site is not going to be used for a motel or hotel under any circumstances. There's simply not enough space. But my point is that these are the types of uses that are allowable by this board in a commercial zone. The commercial zone sits within the retail commercial use district, so it's a zone within a zone. And when you look at it on the zoning map, it is completely encapsulated by a retail commercial zone, not by a residential zone. It sits near a marina. Down the street, there is a restaurant, and as has been stated, there's a church and a funeral home across the street. There are uses similar to a convenience store type use with cars coming and going near this facility. As I previously stated, the proposed building would be less than is what allowed as a matter of right and in respects other to the sign and the use, the building will conform to the present zoning bylaw. There's been a lot of discussion, and the board read letters, and there's been some editorials relative to whether the proposed use will have a detrimental impact. And I'm going to defer in part to Mr. Archer's engineer, but the perception of what is being built and what is actually proposed to be built are disparate in the sense that what is being perceived of being built is something similar to the Kings Corner Cumberland Farms. And I've seen that. That's in one of the letters that you referred to and read in part, which was an editorial that was published. The site that's being proposed is significantly smaller than that site. The Kings Corner site can service 20 cars at a time, and when you go by there, they have 2 sets of pumps in each island with the ability for 2 cars in each pump. This site is significantly smaller. At its maximum, what's being proposed before this board is a site that would have access to maximum of 10 cars, which is 5 pumps, and it would be 1 pump on 1 access for each pump for each island at the site. And the site plan identifies where the proposed pumps are. The current store is closed. The building is in need of some repairs. The owners are present here. All of the Riley heirs are present before this board, and they may wish to briefly address this, but they have given their approval to come before this board. They have labored to try and make some use out of this site, and it has remained in its present state for a significant period of time. This is a site that, as it sits, does not bring any positive aspect to the community. It just languishes. It's been on the market for several years, and it continues to deteriorate. The public opinion is that what is being proposed will impact negatively. Well, what's being proposed is to invest in this site, to put time and energy into making this site productive, to making it a productive use in properly zoned area. It will be worth substantially more from a real estate point of view than it is now as a closed facility. It will generate taxes, it will generate income, and that site will become something more of a profit. It will also provide a service to the community in the sense that local convenience store and gas station. Mr. Archer is also someone who would be an asset to the business community in this area, and he's present. He may choose to address this board. He is a local individual. He lives in air, as you stated. He's not some corporation that is not going to be around. He wants to own a site because he rents 2 other sites that he's owned for 20 years, rented for 20 years. He has conducted for 20 years. And he sees the renting versus owning as something that at point he would like to change. He would like his own site. So you're talking about someone who is going to not only invest his time and money into something, but is going to own it and is going to be a local person. If this site was approved, I would bet that everybody in this room would know Mr. Archer, and he would know all of them by the time within 2 years' time. That's the way he is. As far as some of the impact to lighting, to traffic, again, traffic studies are going to be done through the planning board. Lighting is going to be done through the planning board, but we're going to address those. We're going to make sure that there is no impact to the abutters. Most of the abutters at the Stone Farm, I would say when you go out there and look, you can't see the condominiums from the Stone Farm site. There are several large trees, and when I mean several, a small forest of trees, all 40, 50 feet high. As you stand there now, you cannot see any of the condominiums from the Stone Farm. And similarly, you will not see the gas station from the condominiums. So the impact to the visual impact, the potential negative impact by the site is not there. The closest condominium is 600 feet away, according to the engineered plans.
1.1 tenths of a mile.
So you've...
1.2, excuse me.
Yes, sir. And it's actually across some wetlands as well, I believe, and I looked at it. I'm going to look at it on the...
I had to have a driving experience to find out what we're talking about here in detail.
I'm glad you did. 1.1 mile.
And the
Or
car,
1/10.
the car has a nice...
I'd like it to be 1 mile.
Okay. No, not 1 point, excuse me, 0.1.
Point a 10.
0.12
Okay.
of a mile.
The crowd corrected me.
0.12.
Well, at least we're keeping our humor. And I understand that the Stone Farm abutters are present. Their concerns are it's not compatible with the nature of the area. Well, and they are in a residential area, but this is a commercial area. And to the extent that it's not compatible, my interpretation of it is, and my understanding of it is when you're dealing with compatibility, it would be a legal compatibility with what is allowed in the zone. Again, as I said, the building's allowed, the use is allowed. Not the use, the actual structure would be allowed. So compatible with the zoning, and as I said before, the nature of the zoning actually directly deals with automotive servicing. Sightline issues, again, those will have to be addressed through the planning board. And in summary, you have a site that would be behind trees, that is, for all intents and purposes, compliant with zoning, and the requested use is not more detrimental than the allowed uses would be without a special permit. And For those reasons, I believe that the issuance of a special permit will not have any more detrimental impact than what is allowed as a matter of right at that site. I would turn it over to the agent from the engineering firm, MHF, to just briefly discuss what is being proposed, if the board would hear further, and Mr. Archer is available, as well as all of the heirs of Mr. Riley are present here tonight. I appreciate the time, and I thank this board for the patience.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any immediate questions from the board? If not, I'll open it up to public discussion.
I think they wanted to continue their presentation, Mr. Chairman.
Pardon?
I believe they wanted to continue with their presentation.
Oh, you want
The
to...
engineer was going to come.
I thought you were doing the engineering as, on a demand basis. Go ahead, let's continue.
Thank you, sir.
There's two ways of doing it.
Maybe some of
The
the
easiest-
questions will be answered by
Go ahead.
the agent.
Good evening. For the record, Hussein Sevinchkil with MHF Design Consultants. I'll give you my card if you want after the meeting. As Attorney Cirillo indicated, we are proposing this development completely in the commercial district as depicted on the preliminary site plan that was submitted. We are surrounded by the limited business and residential district around the perimeter and across the street. The proposal, as seen in front of you, is for a convenience store with a drive-through, for a donut shop, a car wash, and a gasoline canopy, which will house 5 fuel islands, which would allow 10 vehicles to be fueled. 2 driveways are proposed. And again, as Mr. Cirillo indicated, if we do receive the approvals tonight, we would move forward with Mass DOT for the driveway permits for the driveways and with the planning board. We have a meeting with the Conservation Commission next week just to go over some of the work that's proposed in the 100-foot buffer of the property. But again, as Mr. Cirillo indicated, I have an aerial. I have an aerial that's shown on the plan. I'll speak pretty loud.
You can take the mic off.
Yeah, you can take the mic with you.
So this is just an aerial overlay from, an aerial map that we obtained. The Stone Farm condos are located back here on this road, and the closest from the back of our building to the condos is about 600 feet. Again, as Mr. Cirillo indicated, there's a forest of trees separating us from the condominiums. And again, the church is shown across the street. Here's a funeral home, and the abutting properties are in this location. Give or take, it's about 400 feet from the structure to the closest house at 810 Mass Ave. Yeah, about 400 feet. I can answer, it's a pretty straightforward design. The building would have a colonial look to it. We have submitted some plans. It would be aesthetically pleasing. It wouldn't be, an old box type building. It would have, peaked roofs and whatnot. It would be compatible with the neighborhood.
All right.
And, we can go into questions that the board
Okay,
might
that's what
have.
I want to do at this point in time. Did any members of the board get a question so far?
Yeah, I've got one, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask the engineer,
Go ahead.
if I could. Any thought in providing emergency power for the station? Like if we had another ice storm, you'd be self-contained, and you'd be the only beacon of light in Lunenburg with hot coffee and places to recharge our cell phones and stuff? I think it should be a building requirement for all service stations myself, so I'm just throwing that out there.
For emergency generator type. That would be up to the business owner.
Right, no, I understand that, but I'm just, as a suggestion on my own part, that's all. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
I just have one question on actual traffic. You mentioned that there was a traffic study done, or you're going to do a traffic study?
It's in the works. It's in the works.
And it is mentioned that it was done, it's in the process of being completed, so it is not completed at this time.
Okay, because one of the things we do have to consider is traffic.
Yes, sir.
And I did read that a traffic study was done in here as I was reading this. I was hoping you'd be able to present that. The other thing is, you were saying that you didn't feel it was more detrimental, than anything else allowed in there in part of the traffic study. In my opinion, I think a gas station, you have a lot more traffic in and out because you don't, you pull into a gas station, get gas and leave. You don't necessarily go into a convenience store or anything else. If you're not needing gas, you go right by. So I would imagine that a gas station does create more traffic.
And I had some discussion with the person who was conducting the traffic study. There are some regulations and comparisons between a convenience store with a gas station and a convenience store without a gas station. And in our discussions, what was relayed to me, and I would expect what will be part of the traffic study, is this evaluation. But what was verbally relayed to me was that in peak hours, the difference would be 30 cars, which translated out to about 1 car every 2 minutes, at least as it was relayed. And I hope I got that right. So that, I expect, will be what you will see in the traffic study. So 1 car every 2 minutes. I don't know if the board feels that is a substantially greater impact or not. During peak hours, I don't know. I don't know what the traffic study will conclude on that, but that's what the facts will, that's what will be contained in the report.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Have you any comments regarding line of sight? I took some time to drive back and forth multiple times, and the question was, in my mind, was when someone's coming to get gasoline, you're coming down the road and there's traffic flowing with it, then he has to take a left or a right turn depending upon his direction. The distance that the driver can see the gas station to react to it. I also, by the way, noted, and this is a side issue, but it's an issue, that I observed was if I'm coming out of the condominium complex, then when you come out, if you're going to take a turn, you have to look to the left. And as you turn to the left, you can't see the cars down at the line of sight from that point where you have the car. At that particular point, if they took out that beautiful brick walls that are on either side, the one on the left, if they took it out and they could have line of sight and I would see something, that would be an improvement to the park. It has nothing to do with here, but I observed it, and it took me a long time to sit there and wait and be sure that there wasn't a car. And if that monument that sits there was gone, I would be able to see it and make a move. And I see someone who agrees with me. So, but that's a side issue. It's nothing to do with here. But your comments on the line of sight for cars traveling at 40 miles an hour and then needing to anticipate and drive into the gas station with the distances for the line of sight, how you view it, not how I view it.
How do we view it? We can.
Are you saying that the wall creates the
If I
issue?
can-
I mean, I know the wall, and I've seen. Are you?
Well, forget the wall now.
Okay.
That was just a side issue. It showed you, I mean, that was an issue of things that one would be concerned about. So then, I obviously turned around and drove both directions to take a left turn into the garage, if you will.
Okay.
Yeah. Are you satisfied with the line of sight distance there?
From our proposed driveways,
Pardon?
where our proposed driveways would be
Yes, to enter the gas station.
to enter the gas station, we feel that, should we have, do you want to ever speak?
I could comment, I could comment
The
on it
expert.
because I've done that. Go
We have our
ahead.
traffic
Wait.
consultant, Heather Montecup with Greenman Peterson.
For the record, I'm Heather Montecup with GPI, the traffic engineer for the proposed project. A traffic study has not been completed for the study. It was not submitted with the application. It will be submitted this is the first step in the process, and it will be submitted as we move forward. We have gone out and done sight lines there, and at the location shown on the site plan, we do meet minimum requirements as required by AASHTO.
The minimum, excuse me. say that.
Minimum site distance requirements, both stopping site distance for those vehicles driving on the roadway so that it doesn't cause a collision with a vehicle exiting the driveway, and also intersection site distance, those vehicles in the driveway looking out at oncoming vehicles. It meets minimum requirements.
Okay. Any further questions from the board?
Yeah, do you think the state's going to approve these?
We need to submit to the state. We're in the process of
In your
doing that.
experience with what you proposed here, do you think that's something the state's going to go for?
The two driveways, what in particular about the driveways? Just,
Well, like you said, your minimum sight lines.
oh,
you're
yeah,
not-
no, it
there's
meets
no-
minimum requirements for safety. You could go to court and they would stand up in a court of
I
law.
think what he's asking is, do you believe that when you submit this, that the state will allow it
Yeah.
as is?
I have had worked on many gas station projects with driveways just like this.
I personally didn't have a problem with the subject matter that I brought up, but that's only me, but I'm looking for a professional point of view of line of sight. If I'm traveling 40 miles an hour and I say, oh, I need gas, do I have enough time to approach it, not to cause rear-end collisions, to come in and come out?
Site distance is based on speeds of the, site distances are based on speed measurements, and we had an ATR out there, and we collected traffic volumes on the roadway as well as vehicle speeds.
I have, there are some questions that you're not answering, in other words, in traffic studies and so forth, you're saying that they need to be done. Am I listening correctly, or did I misunderstand?
The traffic study needed to be finalized. There are initial evaluations. I think that that Heather has the evaluations, and she has to finalize the report.
Correct.
So she can answer questions about it, which is why she's here today. The report is not available because it's not finalized.
Well, that brings us to one point, and then I'll pass it over to you. You're asking for us to grant you a special permit, and in the board's evaluation of whether to grant or not to grant, the primary thing, there are four things that the board has to deal with in granting a special permit. The first A is not applicable. I mean, you do meet that. The one that is the most important is that it will not have a material adverse effect on the value of the land and buildings in the neighborhood. Here we're talking about the price value of a piece of property with or without the gas station. I think that's leaning to it. However, beyond the scope of that, when this board gets involved in granting permits, the issues of safety and, is it, in the first place, is it safe enough to accomplish easy ingress and egress from the property? You're saying that at this point in time, you don't have a study to comply, but that goes on to the planning board, which you go from here.
Correct.
So if we grant, and it wasn't satisfactory from a safety point of view of coming in and out of the driveway, if we grant the the application here,
It's still
it's no, it's not, so here we grant, but then it goes to the planning board, and that becomes their issue. But in my mind, and I'd like the board's opinion, that certainly isn't it also our concern of this board in the positive granting of the application?
Don,
Do I make my point?
I'll just say, you know, as I read these, the first question on the special permits, first question is, will not be injurious or dangerous to the public health, unduly hazardous because of traffic, and we don't have a traffic study. So how do we know that?
Oh, excuse me, I missed
Say,
the
well,
point.
this-
Thank you for picking up on me.
So it's just, it should have been here, in my opinion.
And we can provide it. We will have to provide it. We expect to.
You have to
You have
speak
to
a
speak
little
to the
louder.
microphone,
Sorry.
not for the TV audience and the room.
And we will provide it. And if the board would defer granting,
How can we grant tonight if we don't know?
yes, sir. And we didn't, well, we would have asked, the best results would have been to grant it. We anticipated a further date in any event.
You didn't think we were going to act so fast?
We anticipated a lot of public comment and some things to digest, and so no, we really did not.
Yeah.
We wanted to present,
I personally think that you passed the test based on my personal experience, but that doesn't fly here. It's what the technical people come up and say, yes, that's safe, or it's not safe.
yes, and
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Can I make a suggestion that,
Please.
that we obviously know now that there's going to be continuance on this thing, since we have no traffic study. I propose that we talk about the site, so if there's changes on the site that we're going to demand, that we're going to need, that they would have that be prepared for the next meeting, so we don't make this audience here come for 12 to 15 meetings, and we limit them to only 6 or 8.
Yeah.
If you want. So I would like to start talking about the site and things that we see on the site that we'll have problems with right
Well,
now.
you have the floor.
Okay, first question I have, for the engineer, are we talking about, you want to talk about just the site, or you want to talk about the building and the site first?
Talk about
Just
whatever
the
you would
site?
like.
Let's go
Whatever
with
you
just
would
the site right now. I'm looking at your drive-through, all right? And I don't see, first of all, I don't see where you have the ordering place for the drive-through. Second, so let's go with that first. Where would I order for the drive-through?
Back here, back of the building, the menu board. This is a concrete pad that's on the ground.
Right,
There's a loop detector, there's a speaker post right here, and a menu board.
so so you're putting this right behind the cooler, then? That sticks out, so therefore, it really can't be seen.
It will be seen.
From inside the
Do
building.
this and then
The
that.
menu board is
Here's the
rarely
menu
seen.
board, see right
So
there.
where is the menu board is at the same spot?
So you come in the drive-through,
Yeah?
This is where you're gonna
look
stop.
around, and you
That's where the microphone is,
pull
right
up
here.
here, and that's where your speaker post and your menu board is visible to the driver.
Okay, so I don't know what the menu is until I show up ready to order.
Right, see, here's the bump out for the window.
I don't know, every McDonald's I've gone to shows me the menu board before I get a chance.
The menu board is usually, for any fast food restaurant, is usually right at your order.
Okay, next question I have is that there's a concern with your radius. You have a 12-foot radius. Is there a height restriction you're putting on, a height or a size restriction you're putting on a vehicle to enter into this lane, considering the drive-through lane is only 11 feet wide?
A 12-foot radius, so this is designed for a standard SUV vehicle. Radius coming in, this 12-foot radius would be a concern if we did not have this bypass lane coming around the perimeter. So if you only had the 11-foot lane, we would increase that radius to a 15-foot radius, which is what we typically do. But since we do have this bypass lane, there is no problem with a vehicle turning in towards the pickup window.
I'm looking more at if I have folks who might be stopping, they were working in the area with larger vehicles and a a SUV, and then I don't understand the purpose of I'm trying to understand the purpose of the through lane, because all you show is a drive-through and a car wash. You do not show that as an exit on the other side.
This through lane, so.
I know, but why do you have a through lane there if it's for a drive-through and a car wash, are your only two
So
signs?
that's for the convenience of the customer. So if they come in to either the drive-through or
By the
the
way-
car wash. Oh, sorry. So the through lane is for the convenience of the customer. If they come in to the drive-through or the car wash and they change their mind, we want them to be able to leave without blocking traffic and causing congestion within either lane. So if they come into the drive-through, say, no, I don't want a coffee today, or, whatever, they have the convenience to leave the drive-through lane. Same thing with the car wash. They come in, they change their mind, they have the ability to leave.
Okay, how many vehicles behind the pad are you proposing that are going to be available to fit into this drive-through lane?
For this drive-through, so from,
No, from the place I have to stop at the pad to review my menu, decide what I want, how many vehicles from that spot?
I'm going to get to that,
Okay.
if you'd allow me to explain. So this is your pickup window. From this pickup window to the menu board, there's 5 vehicles. That's the industry standard. So from here,
So how many
Past
feet is,
it.
how many feet is that? I can't see that on the plan, so you're saying 5
here to
vehicles?
here is about 100 feet, center to center.
Okay,
That's industry standard for any drive-through facility.
okay,
Some go with larger, some go with more, some go with less. So we have about 100 feet here. If you carry that 100 feet, so this is 10, 11, 12, and 13 vehicles. 12 to 13 vehicles would be able to go into the drive-through lane without impeding any on-site traffic.
you're saying 13 vehicles from that pad all the way into the
From the
site?
pad back would be 8.
So there's only 8 allowed there?
A total of 13 for the entire drive-through.
So there's 8 allowed from the pad back to the drive-through. What is on the site here? I assume those four things right before that, is that a parking area? Is that what is proposed right there on the right next to the drive-through and car wash? That dark gray area, the dark gray area with the 4 bifold doors.
This is a trash enclosure.
The dumpster.
That's the dumpster?
Yep, fully enclosed.
Okay, next thing I have is that you're proposing, I have a concern with the amount of room that's necessary from the pumps to access in and out of the road. You're showing an in and out lane on both sides, and that would have 2 vehicles. You're showing, because of the amount of folks and the amount of drive-through, you're showing multiple vehicles to be waiting in that area, and so I have a concern that folks aren't going to be able to get to the pumps and into this area, that you're making some very tight lines for folks for driving with the bare minimum without any extra room. So is there anything you can tell me right now as to why you're proposing an in and out on both sides, and why the pumps themselves have such a close proximity to the parking and to the in and out lanes?
Okay, the 2 driveways that are proposed are full access driveways. That's typically what we would do with a site development, to give the customer the option of leaving from either direction, from either driveway. The proximity from the curb to the dispenser island, again, that's, it's not close, it's an industry standard. We go with 35 feet. Some sites have 40 feet if there's going to be larger diesel vehicles coming in,
Okay.
So sometimes we go with more. We have 40 feet from this point to the parking spaces, which allow two-way flow and the vehicle at the island to fuel without impeding any traffic on site. So, that's why this is pushing this site back further. I don't think we're tight with what we're proposing up front here.
Okay. By the way, I addressed the lawyer. Basically, Kings Corner is not in Lunenburg. It's in a different town. So just to understand that. And the number of cars you had at Kings Corner was incorrect. It's only 1 car per pump per side. You had it listed, you're mentioning 2 cars. So this is very close to what you have, and it's much larger than any gas station that would be
The mic,
presently
please.
in Lunenburg.
And My point with King's Corner, and I bring it up by way of reference because it's part of one of the letters that was read, not in its entirety, but it was one of the letters that is read and compared to it. And my recollection on King's Corner is that while the pumps may be 1 and 1 on each side, there's 2 pumps at every island. So it's double what.
So you're putting only...
What I'm
you're
saying is-
I can only pump from the left side, not from the right side?
No, what
of
I'm
each
saying
island?
at King's Corner, that there are 2 sets of pumps. When you pull in, there's 2 cars.
All right, I'm sorry, I don't feel, it's
No,
not
I'm-
my place, but you're incorrect, but that's okay. So the fact, let me
Well, I'm
ask...
going to check on it on the way, but I mean, if
That's
I'm
fine.
incorrect, that wouldn't be the first time,
Okay.
unfortunately.
So, right now, I look forward to your traffic study and having a chance to judge it and things of that sort. Next question for you is on the car wash. On the car wash, I was trying to find in the plans where it shows where the storage is for the water, what you're doing with the runoff water, with the dirty water, with the oil and the grease and everything else from the car wash. And what's your whole plan for that area?
For the whole area, there's a regulation in your zoning dictating what needs to be done with the car wash. At this point, we haven't gone into the design of the drainage, anything design-wise, until we get approval for this layout. So that would be...
How am I going to approve it if I don't see the design?
That wouldn't be typically, the drainage and whatnot would typically not be approved by a zoning board. That's the jurisdiction of the planning board, site plan regulations and whatnot. We also need to go to Conservation Commission. They also look at stormwater drainage.
Okay, so let me then go with the, you show on the right-hand side, you should show a proposed loading zone. What is that loading zone for? Because that does not fit any commercial vehicle since it's only 10 feet wide.
That's
And
for
you're
your...
going to have the car wash people entering, the drive-through people sitting there waiting to order, and so therefore, how are you going to have loading in that area?
So typically, loading would be done off-peak hours. You wouldn't have the loading, typically wouldn't want to have the loading during the morning when your drive-thru's active. This would be for the smaller box trucks that deliver, the Hostess, Ho-Hos, and, things like that.
So what do you do with the larger trucks?
The larger truck would have the ability to maneuver around this building.
So you're proposing that when a larger truck comes, we shut down the drive-through and the car wash for the larger truck?
Not necessarily.
Well, I would have to, because you have no place else for a larger...
So then we would make this we would just pave more to make this allow a WB50 to use that. There's ample room on this site for deliveries. There's an area here for the delivery of fuel. Nothing on this site would have to be shut down for deliveries.
Well, if I have a fuel truck in there, I can't have access to the exits and entrances.
Fuel truck wouldn't be here. The fuel truck would be in this location.
Right, so it's blocking the entrance, that second entrance exit there, and the ability for folks to get in there, plus...
Not necessarily, not
And I have
necessarily.
parking spots on that spot, so how are they gonna fuel the truck if they're parking on that spot? Because after all, you have 12 seats for people to sit, and you only have 20 parking spots, so therefore the people sitting inside are gonna have to be using some of those spots.
Potentially, they could be using those spots.
All right,
There is ample room for the delivery truck to park here and drop fuel for 20 to 30 minutes, if that's what it takes.
okay, so let me go on to the building then, if I have questions here. You have on the building, you show, you show some kind of guardrails with gate and guardrails on the second floor. What is your proposal for that second floor?
I'm sorry, I missed your,
On the building itself.
which
you have-
sheet are you looking at?
I'm looking at the fact that on the exterior sheet number 3, A3, you show a high guardrail with gate on the second floor. And you show a high guardrail with gate on both the right side and the rear elevation. My question for you is, what is the proposed use of that second floor that you require a high guardrail with gate and a high, in 2 locations?
This is where they would propose the HVAC, the condensers and whatnot. On this area, it would be a level, if you follow the dash line, it would be a level area for the condensers, and the guardrail basically conceals that, so it's not visible. it's not a use per se, it's just for equipment. For your air conditioning condensers.
Okay, so just basically the roof line's not drawn quite correct then, in what you're doing?
The roof line's there. There's a hidden dash line here, so it would be just, this area would be cut in with a level area for the condensers.
Okay. I knew I had some more to the right at the moment.
Did his homework.
What's the 1,000-gallon underground propane tank for? Is that how you're going to heat the building?
There's no natural gas available, I don't believe,
So what would you be using the propane for?
for heating the
Well,
building.
that was what I asked, right.
Natural gas is available?
I don't know.
Well, if there is gas, then we'll connect to gas. If there isn't, we have a propane tank.
I'm aware of it.
All right, if anyone has questions.
You all set?
No, I have a couple more, but I'll let anybody else go.
Well, you've been doing your homework, we appreciate that.
That's all right, I still have the rest of the night.
Okay. He's hiring you in the morning. Okay. So, what we have to do is obviously, the end objective of this meeting here tonight is not to be able to grant, but to be able to set forth another date and time for you to backfill all of the necessary information relative to the
Trying to think.
safety issues. So the traffic study needs to be to our satisfaction. It certainly will be to the requirement of the planning board when it goes to site development. So that's the story there. I think, is there any other questions from the board? Because if we don't have that, we can open it up to public discussion from the audience, that based, now that they've gotten a little bit more data to speak to it. So we'll allow you to sit down and relax. We'll open it up for public discussion. Go ahead. You raised your hand. You ready to talk? Yes. Okay, so we'll open it.
Stop, Mr. Chairman, you have
Mr.
something?
Chairman.
Say again?
Mr. Archer, the proposed owner, wanted to briefly.
Oh, I'm
briefly
sorry.
address the
I'm
board.
sorry.
At least we got to meet him.
You should, we'd be happy to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I thought we had covered all the issues. I'm slipping.
Well, I'd like to say hi to you,
Okay.
board. So anyways, my name is Gary Archer. I just want to introduce myself quickly to the audience. I have 2 locations, Air and Littleton, Mass. And I've been running a service station for 20 years. And we're a family business. We're local. We're small. We've been in the business for 48 years. And, you know, we've never had an issue with the towns that we serve in. We care about the community. And we're part of the community. I'm actually on the board of director with the Neshoba Valley Chamber of Commerce. I'm very involved in the community, the churches, the little leagues, the towns, et cetera. And I care about the towns that I serve in. And I run a very clean establishment. And I also really care about the appearance. Appearance is everything to me. It's very important of landscaping and what the building looks like. Like Attorney Cirillo said, I'm not looking to put up a box type building. I'm looking to put up a nice colonial building, and I hope it fits the community if you guys see fit. I'd like to make sure that it fits and it's part of the community. That's really what I want to do. I want to work with you guys, and I want to see if we can make it work, and I want to make it fit. I don't want to just come in and just put something in and have people see, I don't like the way it looks. I want to make sure it's part of the community and part of you know, the neighborhood. I want to be part of the neighborhood, and these are my customers, and hopefully they are my customers, and I want to earn their respect, and I want to make it look right.
Can I ask you a question?
Of course you can.
Is what you're proposing, because I've seen drawings of both, and we just approved recently one down on Leominster Shirley Road. And if you look at that, if people were to be able to see what you're proposing, how close would your site be compared to that site? That's down on Leominster Shirley Road.
Which one is that? Is that the new mobile station?
That's the new one that we just granted.
Very similar.
That's what I thought it'd be, very similar. As a matter of fact, almost closely to identical in configuration except for a car wash and,
Well, MHF Design actually designed that building, and that's kind of what I'm looking for. I mean, I believe it's a moderate-sized convenience store. I'm not looking for something, outrageous, and I hope that's not what people think that is. 5 dispensers.
looking for a living picture of what you propose.
That's my interpretation of what I like to do. I like to do something on that scale, on that colonial type, New England type look. I like to make it fit the community, and I like that look. And I can picture it something very, very similar to that, if not almost identical.
Okay.
So, a few more things, and I know you got a lot of people want to talk to you, so if I may.
Hey.
Thank you. So, the layout, MHF Design worked on that site that you just referred to, sir. And they're a very good engineering firm. They're probably the best in the industry in this area. And they know gas stations, they build them, they design them, and they have a nice flow, and the layout works well. It's a 4,400 square foot store, and it'll have a 1,000-foot square coffee facility. And this store is typical size, and again, I'm looking for, a beautiful built colonial type look. And what you said on, I think, Shirley Road, that's what I'm looking for. With a gable type canopy to, again, make it fit the community, make it look country-like colonial. I'm not looking for some very tall structure. I believe that canopy is 21 feet 7 inches, and the building height is 25 feet high. Lighting, I'm happy to address that with the planning board, but this would be a very energy efficient site. And I will have a photometrics plan for lighting in place, and lighting be recessed in the canopy deck. They won't be sticking down, they'll be recessed inside. The lighting goes directly down. Also, for safety reasons, I'll make sure the pump area is illuminated properly, and I'll make sure the curb cuts are done as well for safety and, for egress and entrance. Lighting in sensitive areas will be cut off. So I don't want the neighborhood to have lighting. We'll cut it off and we'll make sure that it's blocked. I don't want that to be seen from the folks behind me. I want to make sure that I'm a good neighbor. I want to be a good neighbor. And, I need alternative profit centers, like a coffee shop. I need things like that. Gasoline alone can't support a business like this. So people look for alternate coffee shops like the one you talked about earlier. As a coffee shop, possibly, sandwiches, some groceries and snacks. And we talked about things like that to support the business. The car wash is basically, I put it in there, and it could be a second phase on the road. I'm not sure if I can afford that, but it's something that I want to ask. And maybe it happens and maybe it doesn't, but I want to at least ask and then look at that down the road. If there's a need for it from the community, then I'd love to say, hey, can I do this? And that's a second phase. That's not something I'm looking to do right away. But I want to get it going and see how things work, and if I can afford that and there is a need for it, then I like to talk about it. And signs, of course, we can talk about signs, and
You need some minor modifications of the sign bylaw, and I'm referring myself back to Leominster Shirley Road.
yes.
Where they needed, because of if you do Dunkin' Donuts, there's a particular characteristic that you had to maintain, and then the name of the business, we modified that. Is that about, in other words, for us to think about what it's going to be, and for the audience who, if it goes in, have to live with it, could look at that and say, well, that's pleasant or it's not pleasant. And that's the direction that I'm asking the question.
Well, basically, as far as signs go, I want to work again with the board, and I want to work with the community. Does it work? Does it not work? And how can we do it? How can we make it fit so it's
Yeah.
proper for the area I'm in? And the whole site, I want the whole site to be proper. I want the whole, everything to fit the community. If you folks give me a chance, it'll show you what I want to do. And I want to be a good neighbor, and I want to work with you guys. And, I'm building a site that'll complement the neighborhood and community I'm hoping for. That's what I want to do. And, again, you guys can be my potential customers, and I want to work with you. I want to work with you together and see if we can do this. And I appreciate your time. So thank you very much.
I have one question. You mentioned hours that you didn't want to be restricted. Are we talking 7 days a week, 24 hour?
Yeah, that's like to do. That's my other sites are currently.
Okay.
And if I could back up for a second, I just rebuilt my Littleton location. I have some pictures I could bring in next time. But I've had a lot of positive comments from the community saying, wow, you did a nice job, it's beautiful. And I invite anyone down to any one of my locations, Littleton and Air, 500 King Street, Littleton, and 70 Main Street, Air. And please come in and see me. And I'm very approachable, so if you ever want to talk to me or ask me questions on the side, I'm happy to address them and talk to you, because I want to make sure you know that I am available, and I want to address any concerns you may have, because I want to work with you. Okay. And thank you very much.
And one last question. In the terms of the pylon that you'll be putting in, again, is that become an industry standard?
That's ExxonMobil's.
And I'm referring again down to Lemonster Shirley Road, that the pylon, they wanted two, and we said, no, you only need one, and it's on the corner, so cark it out, and you didn't want multiple signs.
Oh, I'm looking for one.
But is that an industry standard to the height that I see around these pylons?
I think certain towns have certain height requirements. I don't know what your height requirements are here, so I can't answer that, but.
Yeah, well, it's okay.
Okay.
We'll see it on the prints eventually.
All right, well, thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, members of the board.
I think we all done if we got hands coming up here, so I'm ready to open it up to public discussion. And I got two hands here. You were first, so number one. You're second.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Dave Rogers. I live at 82 Highland Street, and I've been a resident of Lunenburg for 40 years. The first question I have was answered with the hours of operation. It's scheduled to be a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week operation. The second question I had, and then I have a statement, is to the left of this proposed structure and design is some open land, and that's commercial as well. What's planned there? There's no plan at this time.
We have the building inspector here if he...
Oh, that's fine. I just didn't know if there was, because Mr. Archer referred to further down the road, so I didn't know if there was something there. Okay. The first thing I'd like to say is that I know of Mr. Archer and his family. I grew up in Groton, and I'm familiar with his place in Littleton and in Air as well. In fact, I knew his dad. And I know the family to be a good family. They work hard. They do a good job. Okay, and I also obviously know the Riley family. They've been a pillar of this community for many, many years, and if ever there was something I could do for them, I would like to. But in all honesty, I cannot support this endeavor. I think that it's inappropriate for the area, for the character of the town, and I don't think that it conforms to the four specific sentences that must be agreed to on the Zoning Board of Appeals marching orders, so-called. The one that would be conforming it states it will be operated with reasonable regard for order and sightliness if there's an open use. And I know that Mr. Archer operates a very clean and a great place. For those that don't know, we're in the process right now in the town of reviewing the center, this area, and it goes in various directions, up and down Route 2A. Or Massachusetts Avenue, and we are looking at the character of the town and the quaintness of the town and how we can support small businesses and still keep the New England quality of life. I don't think that anybody could really say, after looking at the example down at the Shirley Lemonster Road, that would tie into the character and the quaintness and the basics of what Lunenburg is today. I certainly am not a traffic engineer, but I've lived here, as I said, for 40 years, and I've seen people come around Patton's Corner from Fitchburg heading towards the center of Lunenburg, And I'm going to tell you, the line of sight is a big issue. And all you have to do is be from here and see what has gone on. In terms of property values, I don't think that anybody in their right mind could possibly say that this will add value to their house if and when this is constructed, and I hope it isn't. I think that there are all kinds...
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
You're saying add to the value. I look at it, subtract from the value.
I do too.
Well,
what I said was, Mr. Bowen, I don't think that anybody could say that if this were constructed, that it would add to the folks' values in the neighborhood.
Yeah,
Okay.
add. What about subtract?
I think it would have an adverse effect on it.
How about a neutral effect?
No, I don't think it's neutral. I think it's adverse. I really do. And that, I've been in real estate for, 40 years plus. And that doesn't say that I know everything, but I'll tell you, it's my considered opinion that there's no way that you could prove to me that the properties adjacent to and down at Riley Way would increase because of the construction of this venture. Simply stated, I've talked too much, but I disagree that this would be an asset to the town of Lunenburg. I think they're nice people on both sides, the Rileys and the Archers. It's unfortunate that I can't support this, because I would like to support business, and I hope that this board votes this down, because I don't think it will be in the interest of the community. Now, one last thing, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, just to expedite things, I think that there are a whole group of people here that if they got up, I think that they would echo my sentiments in various forms. And we're all busy, and I want to get back and see the president on TV. And I was wondering if there wasn't some way that we could make it easier for you guys with a show of hands for those present, if they're for it or against it, in hopes that we could move this along.
I certainly appreciate the thought, and I, like you, would like to, well, I'm not so sure I want to listen to the president at this point in time.
Somebody, I don't mean any disrespect, Mr. Chairman, but somebody said to me, Dave, do you want to listen to the president, or do you want to listen to Bowen? And you know me, Don, I've been your friend for a long time, so I'm with you, whatever you want to do.
Okay. Well, it seems to me that I think we've had acclamation to not read all of the details. I think the sense of the people, by that loud applause, says that they'd like to go see the president, I guess. But go ahead, you have a comment.
I would just say that I would still...
Somebody had their hand
There
up.
are other people that did have hands up, and I'd like them to have the opportunity.
That's right. We got a couple of hands. We're gonna cull this out. So please come forward. Because we did promise if we short-read the letter that if they needed to talk, we were going to let them.
I'm sure I can make this brief. My name is David King. I reside at 40 Riley Road in Stone Farm Estates. And I just want to address a couple of the issues that were brought up by the applicants. I lived in Ayer before I moved to Lunenburg. I am very familiar with Mr. Archer's station in Ayer, and I'm somewhat familiar with his station in Littleton. I'm also very familiar with the one on Shirley Lancaster Road. None of those conform to what Mr. Archer was talking to us about, his vision for our neighborhood. So that's my first point. Second, if you compare what he proposes to businesses in the area, the comparison is Conrad's, which is only open in the summertime and only open for limited hours. It doesn't present any traffic problem or any other safety problems as this place will. As far as the hours are concerned, if you look at the businesses in the center of town, they have reasonable hours, not 24 hours a day. So I think that you are being somewhat misled to think that this plan is going to conform. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. We're going to go through until the crowd says stop.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Robert Ebersol, I live at 94 Main Street. My remarks certainly have nothing against the character of the applicant, nothing against the family of Mr. Riley, certainly a long relationship with my family as well. But zones and special permits relate to the land and not the current applicant, because the current applicant at some point can sell the property. So what would be requested of you is going to change the character of that neighborhood for the future. They can do all the design elements that they proposed. I would question the colonial component for a gas station, because there were no gas stations in colonial time. Buildings are something different. In any case, it's still a gas station. That's my problem. Not the commercial nature, but the gas station. There's still a high-traffic facility on a very dangerous part of the road, and it's still an inappropriate use in this location. I recommend that you do not approve
I have a
this.
question.
Yes.
Would you say that a liquor store would be a better use of the property?
For sure.
Do we say I'll drink to that?
I just asked the question.
I believe
threw it out.
that a retail store has much...
Next to the church.
Zoning came in after existing buildings were there at the time, so I would say that has much less traffic than a gas station.
Okay. I appreciate it. Anybody else going to talk? Come ahead.
That gentleman in the back.
Pardon?
No, go ahead.
Can you hear me okay over the microphone? My name is Russell Poirier, and I live at 724 Massachusetts Avenue. In this picture, this is my property right here. I don't know if I'm considered an abutter or not, but this property borders my house with right there. And I already deal with the lights from Riley Road. It's already changed the nature of my property since I've lived there. The Riley family is also family. They're my cousins. Their mother and my mother were sisters. And I grew up in that house right there. And I spent a lot of time at the Riley house growing up. And I would like to see that this property be used for something productive. And I don't understand why it can't be mixed use. It was a home and a package store for 40 some odd years. And it didn't cause any safety concerns for the community, and it was a productive use. And I don't understand why it can't be used like that again. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman and members of the Board of Zoning Appeals, my name is Donald Gurney. I live at 37 Riley Road in the town of Lunenburg. Riley Road enters Massachusetts Avenue just west of the Riley package store site. I am here to urge you to deny the special permit requested by Gary Archer of Air. And I, just on an aside, I acknowledge that I had written to the Board of Zoning Appeals, and Mr. Gravel read my letter in summary, and I appreciate that being in the record.
You're the one that asked to be heard.
I did ask to be heard. I appreciate having the opportunity to be heard.
Thank you.
First and foremost, by its very nature, the proposed gasoline station, convenience store, and car wash complex is an inappropriate use to be located in our clearly residential neighborhood near town center. In my letter published in the Lunenburg Ledger on September 5, 2014, I compared the proposed gasoline station and convenience store to the Cumberland Farms at King's Corner in North Leominster, but noted that the complex proposed by Mr. Archer would be even larger given the addition of a drive-through window and a car wash. But the size of this proposed gasoline station, convenience store, and car wash complex is not the issue. The issue is that this complex should not be a permitted use in a residential neighborhood in the historic and aesthetically beautiful center of the town of Lunenburg. Moreover, it is my understanding that this use would not be permitted at all under the Village District Protective Bylaw to be approved at town meeting in the spring of 2015. Secondly, the proposed gas station, gasoline station, convenience store, and car wash complex raises significant public safety issues because the site is located on a heavily trafficked and dangerous stretch of Route 2A. To the west of the hill, and Mr. Rogers gave it a name.
Patton's Corner.
Patton's Corner,
There
okay. With a sharp left to right curve. The Riley Package Store site itself is on another curve from the right to left with poor sight lines. I can assure you that the most dangerous thing I do on a daily basis is to make a left turn exiting Riley Road. The cars coming from the west are not visible until they cross over the hill to my left, and because of the poor sight lines, I have to pull almost onto Route 2A to see the cars coming from the east. The proposed gasoline station, convenience store, and car wash complex would only exacerbate the danger. Third, the proposed gasoline station, convenience store, and car wash complex raises significant environmental issues, not only to the nearby wetlands, but also to the adjacent properties. Aside from the danger of leaking gasoline tanks, I am concerned about the pollution from gasoline spilled on the gasoline station apron, from gray water discharges from the car wash, and from the disposal of snow with chemicals and salt during the wintertime. For these reasons...
May I ask a question in that regard?
Yes, sir.
With the changes of events over the years, we have up in town Lunenburg a gas station, and the ground is apparently totally polluted. And you raised the issue in that regard. But it seems to me, and just seems because I don't truly know, that in the implementation of modern gas stations with the double tanks and so forth, does that kind of an issue fall by the wayside in terms of contamination and so forth that you bring forward? And I just ask the question because it would seem that that over the years we've become wiser in terms of putting in stations like that, and are they essentially non-pollutant by that new measure? And I ask the question of you because you raised it.
I cannot answer that question because I'm not an engineer. I am only a private citizen.
Yeah, well, I mean, but you understand that we have to weigh the difference, because if you make a statement and say, and rightly so, that contamination is a major problem in your mind as you presented, that does that get checkmated by new requirements in the industry?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay,
but
that's fair enough.
But it is my
I just
understanding
raised
that the L&M auto site in the middle of town has been polluted, and it has been polluted by leaking gasoline tanks.
Oh, we got a prize uptown that we don't know what to do with. And the question is, and if your statement is true, and I'm not saying that it's not true, I'm saying you're saying, as far as I'm concerned, it's true for the purposes of this discussion. But it would appear that if we thought for one moment that we were going to end up with something like same as uptown, well, I think we'd have to look at it in a totally different way, no matter where we were coming from. And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you hit a sensitive point, an important point.
Well, let me just go backwards. I'm giving you three things that seem to be concerns to me. That the use itself is dead wrong for the middle of Lunenburg Town Center. The second thing I mentioned is public safety, the danger issue. The third thing I mentioned is environmental. I would be very happy if you denied the special permit just based on point one. And I think in particular, I would point out that once the Village District Protective Bylaw is enacted or approved by town meeting next spring, this plan could not fly. There could be a gasoline station there. There could be a gasoline station with gasoline-related retail sales, but there could not be a convenience store, there could not be a drive-through window, and there could not be a car wash.
Okay.
So I'd be very happy if you denied the permit just based on my first point.
You're trying to stack the deck here, Rick.
Well, I want to do whatever is necessary and fair to guide you to the correct decision.
Okay, thank you. Come ahead.
There's a little lady in the...
Oh, we got a...
Tom Alonso, 284 Lancaster Avenue. I have a question for the board and then a comment. The question is, as the attorney for the applicant noted, it is not an as-of-right use of the property. So it is a special permit, and I'd like to know from the board, obviously there's discretionary latitude given to the board, and I'd like to know if, for myself, and I'm sure there are other people in the audience, but certainly for myself, can you explain the special permit process and the discretionary latitude that you have and the parameters you'll be weighing, whether you allow or disallow the special permit?
Well, first of all, the use, and this is, the petitioner comes here for a use permit that in our bylaws it's allowed. The use is allowed through the Zoning Board of Appeals. So it's a use thing. So then we get involved. If we read and I could read them to you if I was, probably I will, but we'll see. But the criteria that we have is to meet certain, we have to make a finding, okay? So is the use allowed? The answer is yes, it is allowed. And if we take the incremental pieces of what's allowed, is a gas station allowed? The answer to the question is it is, with the approval of this board. And is the other components of the applicant, because it's more than a gas station, are each and every one of those allowed? And the answer is yes. So then we come down to the decision-making process. And in the decision-making process, then we have, and I get to read this all the time, I should memorize it. I've been doing it 30 years and I still can't memorize it, but that's okay. And then the question is, we got to find that it would not be injurious or dangerous. First of all, the answer is the use allowable? The answer is definitively yes. So then in the backdrop of that, then the question is, we must find that it would not be injurious or dangerous to the public health or unduly hazardous because of traffic congestion, danger of fire, explosion, or other reasons. Well, the one that seems to have surfaced to the top in this discussion, right or wrong or whatever, is the traffic congestion. The words, and they are important words, traffic congestion is the word. So we must find that, that's to be determined by this board. Then it would not have a material adverse effect on the value of the land and the value of the land, which implies a monetary value of the land and the buildings in the neighborhood or in the amenities thereof. When the board would have to ponder when this development, and the opposition is coming mainly, obviously, from the condominium complex that's there. Well, that condominium complex, in other words, in your mind, as you switch back and forth, do you say yes or do you say no? It would be that when the project was developed, there was a package store, a business there. So those people who bought into it with the full knowledge that there was a package store or liquor store. It depends upon you if we want to go negative or positive in terms of description. And then how that relates to the church, and was that acceptable? And obviously it was acceptable at one point in time. So then the business became defunct, and now a new business comes. So then we're looking at the new business, which I just said that it is an allowable use under the zoning bylaws, and I can give you chapter and verse that we have to go by. So that's that point. Would be operated with regard to order and sightliness. We'd have to find that, and that probably could pass muster. It would not produce noise, vibration, smoke, dust, or odor, and those are the things, and that goes into the development plan review. If it passes our stage, it moves on to that, and then we look at that too, to say that can it comply, and if it complies with all four, then by definition, the board could say, or should say, or depending upon the nuances, say yes. And if we find that it fails in the text of those words, then we deny.
Okay, so those are the only four criteria.
Last point is that we've just recently awarded the gas station down Leominster Shirley Road. And that's the question of use. So they have a property. Did the property pass muster? And then it did, and it met all the criteria, and we grant. We must be sure at the same time that we don't fail. In other words, if you say it's yes here and no here, then there better be substantial reasons, because if we go to the courts, then the courts will then decide. If we say no, and they apply to Superior Court as they must or would, and then it's left to a higher order than us to decide where I forgot the technical terms, being facetious, etc. So I think I've answered your question.
Yeah, okay, so it's just those four criteria. In order to deny, it has to fail one of those things you just listed.
That's right.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure that everybody was aware of that.
And that's clearly what it is.
My comment is, I'm personally against it again, for the same reasons that multitudes of people here before us and included in the petition. But my comment is actually to the people in attendance tonight, that it was indicated earlier that this may go several meetings because they don't have the traffic study. And I would urge my fellow citizens to attend every single one of those meetings. I've been in enough of these things where a lot of people come at the beginning and they dwindle and they dwindle and they dwindle, so it looks like people aren't against it anymore. If you are against it, I would urge you to attend every single one of these meetings to make sure that this board, the Board of Appeals, knows that you're still behind the stance that you are now, whether you're for it or against it.
And by the way, it's a caprice of action that we would take if we had an imbalance of the two.
Arbitrary and capricious.
Thank you.
Yeah.
How are we? Come ahead.
In the back, yeah.
Mr. Bowen and the board, my name is
Dave,
Paul.
I tried, but the folks want to talk, and they're allowed to talk.
Well, I gotta tell you,
He has never said a good word about the president, any president, and I've known him for 60 years. So don't even listen to him, all right?
Does he own a TV?
Oh, my God. Thank
You
you for
forgot what
listening
you're
to me.
talking about. You're like me. I get up out of the couch and go to the kitchen, forgot what I was doing.
I have a couple points that have not been brought up.
Okay.
Regarding to your 4 points. I'm sorry, my name is Paulette Beardmore. I live at 282 Pleasant Street, and I, like everybody else here, have known all the Rileys and all their parents and their grandparents. I'm a Chapdelaine, the Proctors and the Chapdelaines, and we go back forever. And believe me, I'd like to own that piece of land, and I'd like to retire comfortably too. However, 2 points that have not been brought up. One, Bonjour School, which has about 75 to 80 part-time, full-time, in and out after school on that corner. St. Boniface Church, daycare, same thing. We're talking about high traffic time, people coming home from work. We live in a society of hurry up, pick up your kids. That corner is ridiculous. I, like Dave, refer to it as the Patton Corner. We've all seen multiple accidents there. The second thing is, if that convenience store goes in, these two young men who have, and women who have worked like dogs to rebuild the center of town store are out of business. So here we are, another building in the center of town, empty. We're trying to do a center of town plan. That business is empty. Nobody's going to drive into the center of town and put up the lights when they can stop and go into a gas station, probably take their life in their hand. If Dave dies, maybe 5 or 6 people will go. If I die, I come from a big family. A lot of people are going to come. So if there's a funeral and the kid's coming out of school and a 10-stall gas, I'm sorry, I say no. Thank you.
Can't stop them.
She's the best.
Goes with the territory.
Entertainment in this?
Good evening. My name is Amanda Risch, and I represent Stone Farm LLC and Stone Farm Condo Estates Trust located off of Riley Road. I am here today on Stone Farm's behalf in opposition to the applicant's petition to construct a gasoline service station and convenience store at 790 Mass Ave. I'll try to be brief today, given that the board has already agreed to continue this hearing. First, I'd like to say that I was a Lunenburg resident for 15 years. I'm a graduate of Lunenburg High School, and my friends and family continue to live in Lunenburg today. I have a personal interest in this community and in this application. The applicant today is requesting 3 uses for the property that require a special permit under the town bylaws: a car wash, a drive-through, and also a gas station. You've already reiterated that there are several requirements that the board must find in order to grant a special permit. I would submit that today that these have not been met. We've talked about the lack of a traffic study, and that one will be forthcoming in the future. I think that this is extremely important to your decision. Additionally, we'd like to see a sound analysis and a light plan for the property. I think that until these things are submitted, we cannot make a decision for any of these special permits, and that each use must be addressed under this traffic study. I think that the most important question today is whether this is in the best interest of the town in this particular location. There is already an established residential use in the area. It would just create more congestion. Many people have stood up today and said that that area is already full of traffic. And that's all I have to say today.
Can I ask a question, please?
Yeah.
Your connection is to the Riley development, Riley Road, and...
Yes, I represent Stone Farm LLC and the condo association. Yes, that's what it's called.
I'm just curious, when those properties are marketed, are the potential buyers told there's a commercial piece of property right next door?
You know, I can't answer that today. Perhaps some of the residents would be able to answer that. While there is a commercial property next door, it has been vacant for many years. I'm not standing up here today to say that Stone Farm would be against every potential commercial use of that property. My point is simply that for this particular use, the applicant hasn't met the standard to grant a special permit.
I guess the point I'm trying to make is how many people buying down there realize they're buying right next to commercial property, which means in the future, something like this could be put on that property. Are they made aware of that?
Well, I think
as part of, you know, being forthcoming on the property they're buying to make an informed decision whether they really, that's the right place to buy, because something like this could happen in the future.
Correct. I would submit that most potential homeowners drive around the neighborhood prior to purchasing a home. A quick drive around the neighborhood, you'll see a funeral home, you'll see the daycare, you'll see a church. Those are all commercial uses. While it might not be particularly apparent that Stone, the old convenience store, is a commercial use, you know, there are some commercial uses within the neighborhood, so I believe.
So they probably shouldn't be too surprised when something like this comes up on the radar?
Well, I would think that they would have an opinion as to what type of commercial use there is. Because prior to purchasing, the church has been around for many, many years. Similarly, the funeral home, Bonjour, I don't know how long it's been there. It used to be up around here, but
it's not long, right?
these are already uses that are visible for them to see when they're buying. So.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are we...
My name is Matthew Kosich. I live at 119 Sunny Hill Road. It's right around the corner from the Riley property. In the winter, I can see the condos. This time of the year, not so much because of the leaves. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to see the gas station from where I live. And to speak to the traffic issues, I've had my fair share of almost accidents coming around that corner. So I'm in opposition to that. And I do want to reiterate, there is another daycare center at the church. So I just want to voice my opinion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think, has everybody spoke? Come ahead. What time is it? The president talks in 2 minutes, so you got...
Take your time.
Louise Boyle, 29 Riley Road. And you've heard a lot about Stone Farm, but I'm also concerned for the abutters across the street and the immediate abutters to this property. And I have a question. Is the...
Are you the only one that's not from the complex?
I am from Stone Farm.
Oh, you are?
Yes.
Oh,
And you
okay.
read a
I thought
letter
you
from
were...
me this evening. I have a question for the developer applicant. Is he buying the whole piece of property, the commercial and the and limited business?
Yes.
So he has potential to develop or sell that part for somebody else to develop it at one time, later on down the road.
Yeah, and you have to go to...
we need, if anybody's responding, you have to get up.
That's just my question, that there could be something besides the gas station on the other piece of property also.
It could happen.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I only have one other question, one other point. I don't know if Mike Savageau, I think he's still here, I'm not sure.
He is.
Mike, do you have anything to add to this conversation, or would you rather stay in the background for the moment?
I just want to add that, relative to the zoning bylaw.
You have to
Mike
give
Savageau,
you...
zoning officer and building official for the town of Lunenburg.
Thank you.
I think that the applicant stated correctly the zone. It is the commercial zone. Mr. Chairman, you're correct. It is a permitted use under the approval of a special permit and an approved site plan review by the planning board. Outside of that, I really don't have any comment on it. I have no opinion either way on the subject matter. I'm only here to answer questions if asked and relative to the zoning or the potential building or any other concerns that might be under my jurisdiction, but I have no opinion.
I only have one question with the lady just asked, and he responded, this gentleman responded. That property is commercial.
That's correct.
Okay.
That is the commercial district.
And if he subdivides, what was the question that they asked?
If something could be built in the limited business district, which is also associated with the remaining land.
Yeah, but I mean, are they going to consume all of this property for the commercial aspect, or he's taking a piece of it? This is...
No, this engulfs the whole commercial section.
Okay. Then after that, she spoke about the additional land. I'm confused where that land is.
That's on either side of the property and a small parcel in the back of the property. Basically, it appears as though this property, as mentioned earlier, was spot zone commercial years ago when it was legal to do so. We have several spots like that. The Yubbers property down off of Whalum Road, that's a little commercial district. There's another commercial spot further down by Youngs Road. That's an isolated commercial district. That's considered to be spot zoning. That was a practice years ago, and it's...
With Mr. Holly, here, Holly.
Hold it, you can't talk out loud, you gotta come forward.
So so my opinion on the matter is, and I've done a lot of research on that property because it has been abandoned, and just for clarification, We do have in the bylaw that, it was asked earlier, why a mixed use could not occur there. We also have a bylaw that says if there is a pre-existing non-conforming use, that it cannot, after 2 years of abandonment or non-use, it can only resume to a conforming use. So where the package store with the single-family home had a mixed use, that's a residential use with a commercial component, we no longer allow that for many years in the bylaw. Those that were established that way before the bylaw prohibited it are considered to be grandfathered. So Doc's Package Store with the residential use was a grandfathered use. Because it was abandoned and had non-use for over 2 years, and it's probably been at least 6 or 7 years now, our bylaw says that it can only resume to a conforming use. So the chairman is accurate, as he mentioned to Mr. Alonso, that a conforming use under a special permit is a gasoline station. I think you have a situation here where you have a commercial zone that's spot zoned years ago. That's not going to change. You have a gas station that's down the street that's really not near anybody's single-family home, so there was no real concern and no real opposition to that gas station. But now you have a piece of property in the center of town that is zoned commercial. So your board, Mr. Chairman, will make that determination based on the information that you receive in the determination of the board. It also needs a satisfactory site plan review. Traffic, lighting, everything will be looked at, drainage, everything will be looked at through the planning board. It's a two-step process. If they approve the use, it has to be conditional upon an approved development plan review through the planning board. They will look at the more detailed aspects of the drainage that was brought up. Is the water being recycled through the car wash if it's allowed? It is in our bylaw that it has to be recycled. The car wash also says, if it's permitted, that they need a 24-hour attendant. So that might be a detriment to put the car wash up because you don't want to pay somebody 24 hours a day, or at least it says in the bylaw while it's open. So that's a decision the applicant will make if he wants to move forward with that. If he does the gas station first, if it's approved, then he might want to apply for the car wash. But there are parameters that need to be met under the special permit. So you have unfortunately, you have a piece of, unfortunately, maybe depending on how you look at it, you have a piece of property that was spot zoned years ago commercial in your limited business district. The town is now looking at doing a new village, for the center of town. And these are things that the town really needs to take into consideration. There was a lot of opposition to a special permit that was allowable for a sawmill in town. And as much opposition that was there, you got to remember, it's, and this could be denied, it could be granted. That's not my decision to make, that's this board's decision to make. But you got to remember that it's in the bylaw. That's why the applicant is here. And it was mentioned that next year, if we do the village overlay, something like that won't be allowed. Well, today it is, so you got to remember. What happens next year will be decided at the next town meeting if that's when the village overlay district is presented. But the applicant has a right to apply, and he has a right to that use if he can meet the parameters of the special permit with a satisfactory site plan review. So that's where it all fits. So food for thought in the future, when you start looking at your village overlay and when your planning board starts evaluating what you want in town, you gotta consider everything, because we had in the bylaw in the residential district that you could do a sawmill, and as much opposition that was there, the applicant complied and he was unanimously granted the sawmill. And it's a travesty, right? It's a travesty, but it's in your bylaw. Change your bylaw. Yes. Change your bylaw if you don't want these type of uses in these areas. The issue is that you have several places in town that your zonings, I've been involved in it for 12 years now, and as a member of the Board of Selectmen 11, I know this town pretty well. You've got several areas in this town that have issues relative to what they're zoned. Take a hard look at it, because if you put it in your bylaw and you say someone can do it, they have a right to apply. They may or may not be granted, but they have that right. Take a hard look at it. I deal with it every day. People don't want it when it's in their backyard, and if that's the case, get it out of the bylaw, because they have a right to it if they can comply. And that's really my opinion of the subject matter. Granting it or denying it, I have no opinion on that. That's up to this board and a satisfactory site plan review. I'm only telling the audience here, you guys live in the center of town, go to the planning board meetings. Take a hard look at how you want your community to look, because unfortunately, through the years, and as people change on committees, and as members of the planning board change, things get dropped down through the cracks. And little things get overlooked that now become big things. You've got to look at the overall picture. I think it's a great idea that the town's looking at changing the center of town, but get involved in it. Get involved in it so that when some permitted use comes forward in front of a board or is given by right through a building permit from me, you already know that it's allowable there. Now, it's never going to be perfect, but take a hard look at your bylaw. There's several areas I know the planning board's working on.
Thank you
Great idea. But you gotta take a hard look at your bylaw.
Thank you very much, Mike.
Chairman?
Yes.
I had a question, actually. It's, we've deemed that this part of the site has the ability to be commercial. The future development area, what is the only what's that allowed for? Is that also going to be light? That could be, what would be allowed in that site?
Yeah, I'm sorry. The abutting, surrounding, and abutting district.
Part in green. The part in green on the map?
Right. The part in green in the map is the limited business district, and it's relatively limited in what you can do. You can have some type of crafty stores, like you would have a blacksmith shop, arts and craftsy type of sales, antique sales. You could do some type of, might be able to do like you can rent, you can lease, rooms out, like a bed. You can do a bed and breakfast. Far more limitation. In the commercial district, you're allowed by right, without zoning board, in the commercial district, you can do anything that's allowable in the retail district that doesn't require a special permit. That's a whole host of things. A whole host of things. As it was mentioned earlier and correctly stated, a retail store could go there, no questions asked, come get a building permit, go to site plan review. You don't need special permit for that. You do for the gas station, that's why we're all here tonight. But the limited business district, that's the green area that surrounds that commercial section, relatively limited in what you can do there. Not anything close to this type of development would be allowed in the limited business district.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Mike. I think we're at a point where we're getting ready to... Pardon?
More would like to speak.
Pardon?
Yeah, maybe some people in favor, Mr. Chairman? Is there anybody in favor this evening? Everybody's been against. We might want to ask if anybody wants to speak in favor of the application.
What do you mean?
I think everybody spoke against the application so far, Mr.
Oh, I didn't even think that was on the table.
Oh, I thought we asked both sides, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, yeah, that's right. We're in the public discussion a long time ago, but, so now we're, anybody in favor? There you go. Thank you for bailing me out.
That's
Thank you.
No problem.
I got to tune up that hearing aid a little bit on your side.
Yes, you do.
Let me hear a name, Mr. Chairman.
I will first. Mr. Chairman, member of the board, Lunenburg residents.
Our names.
Marsha Riley, and I'm her husband, Al Luoma. We've been married 43 years, and I'm one of the executors, so I have permission to speak. Okay. I want to just kind of address this in a little bit different light and let you know.
You should,
You have to speak to the microphone.
Yeah, okay.
We're kind of like it's important to talk to us.
Okay.
Would like to let you all know what we've been up against. The lady commented that she'd like to sell it and retire comfortably. We're not going to do that. My father-in-law, who died about 7 years ago,
had the property in the back, and we went through the years to get that development through. And if you people in town recall, many of you didn't want that. You didn't want a retirement community. My father-in-law could have put 40B housing in, but he chose to take less money and have 55 and older because he spent 81 years in Lunenburg. He loved this town. So the sad thing is, it took so long for him to get through. He died 6 months after we closed. He never enjoyed his retirement because it took 4 or 5 years to get this through. So the property gets sold in the back, we have the front, and little did we know about the 24-month deal where you couldn't use it as a mixed use because he was sick. We had a sister-in-law who passed away at 50 from cancer. We had a lot of things going on. Otherwise, we would have put another business in there. I've had numerous people over the last 7 years, come to me and ask if they could put a donut shop in there, a lunch place. We can't do it because of the law. And we've spent almost $80,000 over the last 7 years paying town taxes, plowing, heating that place, keeping it up. I come up personally and mow it. So I just want to give you a perspective of what we're up against. Now, Cumberland Flowers talked to me, but Gary Archer, I met Gary Archer, and if you look at his stations, I'm impressed. He's a class individual. And I'm sure if you would go by the laws and it's approved for use, you're going to have a great guy in your community. But going forward, what frightens me here is he spent thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars doing these studies already, and it could go on forever. And when I hear about Mr. Gurney talking about this Village Protection Act, where does that put us then if you drag this out and then all of a sudden, what do we do with it? I think what his plan is a good plan, but on the other hand, if we can't sell it, why doesn't the town of Lunenburg buy it? If it's such an important thing, because I'm paying $10,000 a year to support that building, and I can't do too much with it.
And my question is, if Mr. Archer conforms to everything that you require in a building and what's needed, I don't understand. If he complies and does everything that's expected by the law and by the Lunenburg bylaws, we wouldn't have, and I understand people being upset, but it is a commercial piece of property.
For 55 years and more than 40 years, there was a liquor store before Conrad's, before the church, before the funeral home, before the daycare center. There was a carpet place there. If you go down the street, there's a boat shop that looks just great in front of your new fire department, and then you have a credit union. So it isn't like it's not a commercial going down there. And as far as the traffic, Mr. Rochester, he went to see Mr. Obama.
He's going to listen to the president.
You probably get more results here. But anyway, the traffic study will come in, and Mr. Gurney, are you still here? Yes, sir. He's an attorney, and I read up about him, and I certainly do respect him a lot and see what he's done. But, talking about environmental, the tanks have changed nowadays. I mean, the EPA is strict on all of this, but if we do a traffic study and it complies with what you guys expect, if we look at the public safety and it is approved and worthy, and environmentally it passes your test, I would like to deal in facts rather than frightening the town about tanks that could leak that they did 30 years ago. So I would like to, I'm a little disappointed that we didn't have the traffic study, but that's understandable. Gary Archer had to rebuild his gas station this summer. We would have been in earlier, but I want you to know that when he closed his station, he paid all of his employees for the whole time it was closed. That's the type of individual you're talking about there. So, in closing, I'd just like to push this as quickly to get a resolution one way or another on this proposal. I just hope it doesn't go a year or 2 years. We're paying taxes.
I will tell you the way that this board operates. We, obviously, if we don't have all of the facts to gather together, and in this particular case, we had several facts that didn't allow us to take an action. One was getting the data to us in time to ingest it, so we're gonna, each individual, we don't meet on the side and the corner or anything. We don't talk to each other at any time during this conversation. 2 people can sit together, 3 is a crowd, and that's not allowed.
I understand.
So, and that's the way it works. But,
and I do respect that.
Yes.
The only thing I'd like to do going forward is make sure, unlike the development that went behind, we came back numerous times. We'd like to have a punch list of what we really need, so we don't have to come back and waste everybody's time.
That's what we would like to do. Is and our plan is when we're going to continue this meeting. We'll continue it we meet twice a month. So we're going to meet it, and we get 14 days of notice, but we're going to move it out to 1 month. Will be the date that we're going to set for date and time specific.
Can you vote on that evening?
We're going to talk right here when we cut off public discussion to what we require of the applicant to have the proper information to us. And only if the applicant fails to supply the data will we continue it to a greater time. And you can think of it in 1 month lumps. That's how it works. Just simply because we only meet twice a month. And we get other things on it. We get 40Bs on our project. So they can, and as a matter of fact, the 40B, we get into these things for 2 or 3 or 5 years.
I know.
And it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort, but that's what we do. But that'll give you the time clock that we're working on. And you and everybody else here will know that the board will be mulling over those 4 issues that we must find in order to do it. We've already established that the use is allowable. Question is, can it meet the test of the others? And that comes from some of the voices that are coming out telling us, this is why you shouldn't. This is why what we say is embedded in the words that you must do. We can either find for or against it, and that's up to the board. And that's the most I can tell you.
Well, I appreciate it.
And you know what, I understand people being upset with, like maybe what's going in there, but my feeling is, this is a property we have that we're trying to sell, and we want to do what's, acceptable for Lunenburg and what they'll accept.
And I think Gary Archer, with all the people I've talked with, is really the best choice putting in a service station.
Of people that we've spoke to.
But again, I don't have an axe to grind with all you nice people in Lunenburg. I want to drive through town and not get rocks thrown at me.
Okay, thank you.
We want to leave without getting tarred and feathered.
We just want to let you know our perspective and our costs.
Oh, I appreciate it, and I'm sorry, I forgot that we went into the other one so long, I forgot how about those that are for.
It's okay, I appreciate
If
it.
there's anybody else that's for that would like to speak, if they would, please come forward.
I'm David Riley, Ed Riley's son. I've only been a resident for 67 years. We've been through a lot with the property. There's been a lot of question about the traffic. And I lived and worked in that building for 50 years. There's been a lot of accidents on the corner, and to my recollections, in the 50 years that I've worked at the store, there's never been an accident involving the store, in front of the store. So I just wanted to address that because that seemed to be a big concern for everybody about traffic. The other thing is the residents out back in the 55 community have a beautiful place to live. They've chosen to live there, and that was because my father chose that type of a property when he sold it as opposed to a 40B project.
Okay, thank you. With that, if there's anybody else who'd like to speak in favor, and if not, I'll cut off public discussion. So I do cut off public discussion. When we meet again, when we come forward at the next meeting, we don't rehash old material, but if we have a public discussion period, that we open it up again, but we don't kind of keep rehashing. That's the only limit to that. And with that, I bring it back to the board. Gentlemen, what do we, did the applicant come forward a minute?
Nothing.
And we'll decide what the agenda is for the next meeting, what we need to accomplish. What do you think what do you think we need? And then
Well, traffic study.
See if we're in agreement.
I would say first we
Oh,
need...
by the way, hold it, before anybody leaves. Before anybody leaves. We're gonna move this to a date and time specific. What is that date?
October 8th is my next.
October?
Is that a Wednesday?
Pardon?
Well, that's what we have to
Yeah, will that work for the applicant in October 8th?
October.
Will we be able to have the traffic study done by October 8th?
Yes, definitely the traffic
Is
study will be done
October,
by then.
anyone got a calendar right there?
I don't.
October 8th or Wednesday?
I don't know.
I have a calendar.
Somebody got a smartphone?
We're trying to determine that, but
We're
it's
trying
tough
to
with everybody
determine.
leaving to have the conversation.
Is that the second
Leave, you
Wednesday
have
of
to be quiet.
October?
Second Wednesday, October.
Yes.
It's the 8th. Okay.
That's
So
the
it'll
8th?
be,
Okay.
October 8th at 7 o'clock.
Well,
Okay,
Hold on a second. Is that okay with the applicant first?
Yes.
October 8th at 7 o'clock?
Yes.
Is that okay?
Okay.
Is anything else
So-
we're gonna want?
Okay.
I'd like to have the traffic study for not only the
We want
road,
the-
but also the on-site, a little bit of on-site information on traffic because of, what a convenience station. Yeah.
The question, I wasn't...
I'd like to have an on-site traffic also, like what you're expecting from traffic, from the 10 gas pumps.
Yeah, the trip generation of the site, correct?
So,
Yeah.
well, I mean, I'm talking about internal.
Inside, yep. We get both. We get the traffic out on Mass Ave, and we also look at what the site's going to generate and what's going to happen at the site driveways.
Okay, because we've gone through where folks have just done the road.
Oh, no. I have to tell you about what's happening with each, just someone had mentioned each individual use and all that. You'll have that information.
Okay.
Okay, anything else do we think we need that's not on this calendar yet? Anything? Anybody else?
I'd like to get a little bit more detail on some measurements on the plans too. Just in general, like where this. Okay, I'd like to just get a little bit more measurement details on the plans as to far as like the sight lines for the vehicles and things of that. So what you're suspecting for a vehicle, the width of a vehicle, all those assumptions you're making, just so we can determine things of that sort.
Sight lines from the driveways.
From the driveway. So in other words, if I have two vehicles entering the driveway, if I have a vehicle if I have three vehicles waiting at the driveway to pull out, how does that affect the pumps? How does it affect the parking and things of that sort?
All right.
We're kind of quiet tonight, huh? Okay, oh boy.
Any other, what I'd like to do is make a motion to continue.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
With date and time specific.
Motion to continue till October 8th at 7 o'clock.
Second to the motion?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'd make a motion to adjourn this session.
Motion
Can I ask-
to adjourn.
Wait, let the...
Can I ask one
We're
question?
almost ready.
Oh, one question.
Traffic study and this additional information, when do you need that?
October 8th.
October 8th.
You need time to review that?
Yes, 1 week before.
Oh, a week before.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that.
If you could get it to our secretary.
1 week before is enough?
One week before.
All
You-
information.
Yeah, if you can give it to Lisa, the secretary.
The sooner
she's
would
in
be
the red
better, but the
building.
worst case, we cannot look at it unless it's at least 1 week before.
1 week before.
If you get it to her electronically, she'll give it to us electronically.
Yeah, we can do that.
We
Yeah.
It'll be a lot
prefer.
easier, save paper and,
Right. Yeah, we don't need you to make 6 more of these,
right.
8 more of
We'll
these.
give you these back at the end of the meeting if you want them to, Otherwise they go in the
Do you
recycle.
only want electronic?
Well, we're going to need at least one, we need at least one copy.
Just so we could read it in advance of the meeting.
Yep, okay.
Yeah, it's harder
That's
for...
easier. I hate
Exactly.
making 20 copies of people, they're just gonna do
We,
nothing with it.
we agree, this wasn't a, 10 cents a copy.
Are you,
No.
are you folks backfeeding in parallel with the planning board in this regard?
We have not submitted,
Do you feed them any information relative to this? Okay.
not yet.
I'm just asking.
So you want to get through us first
We need
before
the
you even
stick first.
entertain that?
Exactly.
Sense of the board is?
Hours
Oh, you
of
got some
that.
reaction tonight.
I'll bet you that there's 2 pumps on each island.
You can't get 2 cars
I think you're
on
right.
each
This
island.
goes,
I think you're right.
But you can't get 2...
I agree with you.
You can't get...
this
you
goes
can't get 2
to
cars.
Lisa. This is the one on Lancaster Shirley Road.
One in front of the other.
Never happened.
I just brought it for
Okay, never happened.
background.
Okay.
Never happened. I understand that, but that never happens. There's never 2 cars pumping at the same time.
All right, we're done.
That's all right, don't worry about it. It's not that important.
No, it wasn't, it wasn't. That's why I bring it up after the meeting.
I understand.
We did. We adjourned, right? We're all set.